What's going on, everybody? Today we have another rebuild for you here on the channel, and today we are rebuilding AS Roma. They've fallen on a bit of hard times since sacking former manager Jose Mourinho, who actually won them some of their biggest silverware in years by winning the Europa Conference League. Now they are sitting in 10th place in Serie A, and their new manager is none other than Claudio Ranieri. But today, we are at the helm of AS Roma, and our goal is to rebuild them into a powerhouse of Italian football. Now, rules of this rebuild really quickly. We will have 5 seasons to win a Champions League title with AS Roma. If we do not win the Champions League title within those 5 seasons, we go until we lift that beautiful trophy with this club in today's rebuild. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and get into today's rebuild. Alright, so here we are, NFM taking over AS Roma. We're going to be jumping straight into things here, especially with the tactic. We have got my 4-2-3-1 Frosty, dropped it on Christmas Day. Very good attacking wise, as well as defensively speaking. This is going to allow us to make AS Roma a very, very tough side to beat. We are not going to be making any transfers in the first season. I kind of want to see what we have to work with, what players I want to keep around, and what players I want to move on from. This is an aging squad, so there is probably going to be a lot of turnover in the first 2 to 3 seasons here with Roma. And in year 1, we are in the Europa League when it comes to continental competitions, which I think that we can hopefully have a decent go with things. Under Jose Mourinho, they actually did pretty well in the Europa League, so hopefully we can live up to those expectations and make it to at least the semifinals, and hopefully we can perform well in the league as well. I am aiming to win the Coppa Italia, though, not only this season, but every single season. I think that we can definitely do that. So, I guess, without further ado, let's go ahead, simulate through Season 1, and see if we can bring home any silverware. Alright, here we are, end of Season 1. How did we do? We ended up doing a double. We unfortunately only finished in 4th within Serie A, some ways off of 1st, as well as Inter, who were in 2nd. I mean, we were 10 points off of Inter, so we got a little bit of growing there to do. But Europa League-wise, we ended up winning the Europa League 1-0 over Arsenal. Big-time win right there. Silverware already in the trophy cabinet, as well as the Coppa Italia, which, like I said, I think that we could definitely win that every single season. That is my aim to. Absolutely love that trophy. So definitely want to win as many as we can. When looking at player production overall, we had some big time performers this season already. Artem Dovbyk with 33 goals. You have Lorenzo Pellegrini with 20. Cristante with 13. Shula with 12. Dybala looks like he ended up being injured. He only played 37 times. Assist-wise, though, Enhaino with 19. Shula, there we go, with 16. Dybala with 11. And Zeki Celik there with 10 assists as well. Average rating wise, Artem Dovbyk was the highest so far. And our highlight of the season will of course be us lifting that Europa League trophy in our 1-0 final win over Arsenal. Looking to our transfer budget for next season, we will have £33.4 million in the transfer budget, a little under 200k in the wage budget. Hopefully we can make this work. We are probably going to be selling quite a few players though, or at least just some valuable players to accrue some value to bring in players that I actually know that we need and or that I want here at AS Roma to really build them into the giant I know they can be. So let's go ahead, fast forward to season number 2. Now when it comes to the transfers here for season 2 and on the outs, we brought in just under £50 million. We missed it by $250,000. But we ended up moving on from names like Mario Hermoso to Everton, Maurash Kambula to Girona, and Enzo Lefebvre to Southampton. On the ends, we did some pretty good business. A majority of them were actually transfer listed, and I was surprised by some of the players that were. However, we'll start things off with a free signing, Mr. Vitor Roque, bringing him in on a free from Barcelona, bringing in wonder kid Rooney Bargi from FC Copenhagen for £16 million. Great signing right there. Bringing in Italian wonder kid Simone Pafundi, who is transfer listed for £17 million from Udinese. Can't wait to see what he is capable of. Bringing in some depth options here with Chris Richards for £6 million transfer listed from Crystal Palace. Bringing in an absolutely versatile bargain in Weston McKennie, who is transfer listed for £2 million from Juve. And then a good depth option once again at center back in Yanel Robasek, who was transfer listed by Inter Milan for $5.75 million. Going into season 2, this is probably our strongest 11 right now. I'm hoping that a majority of these guys are always playing. I think that would give us the best chance at achieving what we want to achieve this season. And being that we are in the Champions League this season, there is a lot that we could potentially be going for. I think that we can definitely take a step up in the Serie A. I definitely think that is doable for us. Fortunately, we already are runners up in the UEFA Super Cup, so we do have a ways to go probably in the Champions League, so maybe a quarterfinal appearance. I'd be pretty happy with that. Coppa Italia wise, definitely think that we can win that again, and the EA Sports FC Super Cup, hopefully we can win that as well. But with that being said, let's go ahead and simulate through season 2 and see how we do. Alrighty, season 2, done and dusted. What are the results like? We actually did pretty well, in my opinion. We finished second by a point, so we are actually on the tails of AC Milan and Inter Milan. I think next season we definitely could be pushing to win it, being that we were only a point off. Now, come the Champions League, we got knocked out in the playoff round. I wanted to at least make it to the quarterfinals. We couldn't even make it to the round of 16, which I think UEFA Super Cup runners up, that kind of told us that we still have a bit of improving to do to the squad, so hopefully we can do that improving this offseason. We won the Coppa Italia once again, but we were runners up in the EA Sports FC Super Cup, unfortunately, but we do come home with the one trophy in the Coppa Italia once again. When looking at player performances, once again, very solid season from quite a few players. Artem Dovbyk with 20 goals. He fell off a little bit there. Dybala, though, much better season, 20 goals, and he had 22 assists. Lorenzo Pellegrini, 19 goals. Stefan El Shaarawy, 14. Shula, 12. Bargi with 10. Assist-wise, we know Dybala leading the way there with 22, and Haino with 20. Bargi with 14. Highest average rating was Haino, actually, with a 7.23. Highlight of season number 2 would, of course, be our Coppa Italia win, which would come over AC Milan, which we would end up winning in extra time on a pen through Paulo Dybala. Now, going into season 3, we will also be participating in the FIFA Club World Cup since we ended up winning the Europa League. Not really expecting to win that, but I will keep you updated onto how we do, which not really expecting that deep of a run, but if we do have one, it's very welcome. Transfer budget wise, going into season number 3, we don't have a whole heck of a lot. We've got £21.1 million to work with. Not a whole lot of wiggle room in the wage budget once again, so we are going to have to look to offload some players. And I have a feeling we're going to be offloading quite a bit to get to where we want to be. Alright, so there's season 2. Let's go ahead and move on to season 3. And while we are moving on to season 3, really quickly for those of you that may not know, towards the end of today's rebuild, we will be handing out an award to the best rebuild player of the save for each rebuild that we do here on the channel, which at the end of the year, right before FM25 comes out, there will be polls here on YouTube. We will then award the Rebuild Player of the Year award to the best rebuild player from all the rebuilds that we do here on the channel for FM24. And also, while moving on to season 3, we ended up getting to the FIFA Club World Cup quarterfinals, so pretty decent. Like I said, didn't expect to win it, but I'll definitely take a quarterfinal appearance. And now here we are at season 3. Now, we made quite a lot of money. £152 million in total, actually. And some of the names that ended up leaving, they were some big ones. One of the names leaving was Tammy Abraham to Marseille, another being Paulo Dybala to Al Ahly, followed by Saud Abdulhamid going to Juve. Mr. Evan Ndeka will be leaving us for Atletico Madrid. A personal favorite of mine, Brian Cristante, unfortunately will be leaving us for Al Nassr. And then finally, Mattia Manini will be leaving us for Newcastle United. Now, thanks to that boost in the transfer budget from those sales, we were able to bring in some big-time signings, and installments definitely helped out with that. One of our first signings was actually Sasha Sasha Bowie from Bayern Munich up front, 42.5 million. Then we've got his partner on the left-hand side coming from Atalanta, Matteo Ruggeri for 55 million. Looking forward big time to having both him and Sasha Bowie. We got an upgrade between the sticks in Guilherme Restes from Toulouse, paid a pretty penny to bring him in, but for 50 million up front for potentially one of the best goalkeepers in the world. Very, very happy with that signing. Then for 60 million pounds up front for Ederson, once again coming from Atalanta. Very happy with bringing in a defensive midfielder where I feel we definitely needed an upgrade. Speaking of upgrades in defensive midfield, we also brought in Frank Kessie on a free from Al Ahly. We also brought in Lazar Samardzic on a free from Udinese for some depth, as well as Matus Tramal to be our backup goalkeeper from Mlada Boleslav for some depth, also on a free transfer. And then our big signing of the transfer window was also, once again, from Atalanta, Mr. Giorgio Scalvini, 60 million pounds up front. He is going to be our star in defense, and our backline was massively upgraded during this transfer window, which all those upgrades would lead our side to looking like this. This is how I feel would be our personal best 11, or at least the 11 that I would probably be playing game in, game out as much as I could. Very young, very solid, but has that veteran presence exactly where you need it, which is in defensive midfield. I think a defensive midfield duo of Ederson and Kessie is going to be unbelievable, but I also got Mancini back there to play with Scalvini, which that is going to be unbelievable as well. That is probably one of my more favorite central defensive partnerships that I probably could have had. It reminds me a lot of one of my favorites that actually finally did happen in reality at one point, which was Manolas with Koulibaly at Napoli. Even though it was short-lived, that was definitely a fun one to watch. But hopefully those two can just be absolute beasts back there together, and I think that this group it's starting to get exactly where we need it to be to really push on for some big-time silverware. And this season, being that we finished second in Serie A last season, we will once again be in the Champions League, which I realized I did not show you guys the schedule for the Champions League last season, so I'll make sure that I do it for sure this season and going forward. And so this is what we have in store for us in the Champions League. We start things off at Chelsea, then we've got AC Milan, and then Manchester City. So 3 heavy hitters off the rip. Hopefully we can at least get a win out of that. Then we've got PSV Eindhoven, Young Boys, Atletico Madrid, Maccabi Haifa, and Eintracht Frankfurt. I think that we should definitely be able to go through, whether it's automatically or through the knockout phase. Don't really know, but I definitely think we'll be able to go through. When it comes to all these competitions, though, hopefully in the Serie A, with the upgrades to our squad, we can push on and win the league this time, being that we only missed out by a point last time around. Champions League, definitely want to aim for that quarterfinal this time around. There's no reason we can't get there. Coppa Italia, time to make it a three-peat. We've already won it twice. And the EA Sports FC Super Cup, hopefully we can win that this time. It'd be nice, because then we could potentially, if we do well enough in the league, Coppa Italia, and the Super Cup, we could have a treble right there waiting for us when it's all said and done. So without further ado, let's go ahead, simulate Season 3, and see how we do. While we simulate through Season 3, here are some facts about AS Roma. They actually were formed through a merger. It was originally supposed to be a 4-club merger. However, there was one club that ended up not wanting to go through with it. They were the only club that remained independent, and that club was Lazio, which led to a massive rivalry between AS Roma and Lazio. In 1982-1983, when AS Roma won the Serie A title, they celebrated in ancient Roman ways, which included a chariot ride with the trophy. And in 2004, club legend Francesco Totti almost left AS Roma for Real Madrid, but later revealed the reason why he didn't leave was because of his deep connection not only with the club, but its fans. But now, let's get back to the rebuild. Alright, so Season 3 is done. Wanted us to do pretty well, wanted us to win the league. And thankfully we did, because we won the league on 97 points, but we also won the Champions League. Was just expecting a quarterfinal run, which thankfully we got a whole heck of a lot more than that by beating Real Madrid 3-2 in extra time. Francesco Totti came through right there for us. And then the Coppa Italia, we ended up winning that once again, making it a three-peat. Unfortunately, runners-up in the Super Cup, so we could have had a quadruple, but I will definitely take this absolutely amazing treble. When it comes to our Champions League journey, we already know who we were facing in the league phase. We actually lost one game in the league phase, which was to Chelsea, the first one. And then we went on to beat Milan, Man City, and everybody else, which is a very nice surprise to see. And we, honestly dominated Man City 5-2. And we had to play them again in the round of 16, where we beat them 6-2 on aggregate. Then we ended up taking on PSG, beating them 5-1 on aggregate, beat Barcelona 9-1 on aggregate, so we definitely deserve to be in the final for sure. And then we took Real Madrid to extra time, winning 3-2 with a 108th minute goal by Matthias Schüller, it looks like. Looking at the numbers once again here for us, Artem Dovbyk with 43 goals this time around. I'm starting to think it's getting to the point where we need to cash in and maybe, being that Al Hilal is interested, try and get the most that we possibly can for him to reinvest into the squad. Simone Pafundi with 24 goals for us. That's awesome. Matthias Schüller 22, Bargi 19, Beldanzi with 12, and Vitor Roque with 10. Now, assist-wise, what's it look like? Ruggieri with 20 in his first season. That's what I am liking right there. Schüller with 18, Bowie with 13. So that combo of those wingbacks doing wonders for us with 33 assists between the two. Then you got Bargi with 11 and 3 players with 10. Vitor Roque, Weston McKennie, and Ed Hyeno. When it comes to the average rating, Matteo Ruggieri 7.36. That is how you announce yourself to a new club right there. With a 2-goal, 20-assist season as a fullback, wingback, however you want to call him, and a 7.36 average rating. That's phenomenal. Now, our highlight of the season 100% has to be that Champions League win in extra time over Real Madrid. An absolutely fantastic game that had to go to extra time because the two sides simply just could not be separated. And seeing that we are getting up there to the levels of Real Madrid already is awesome to see. Still have a ways to go development-wise, of course, but I think that this AS Roma group that we're building, especially with this tactic, it's going to make them absolutely unbelievable. And as we will see here, Mr. Weston McKennie is going to find Matthias Schüller to seal the deal. Now, going into Season 4, we're going to have £42.4 million in the transfer budget, so definitely going to need to cash in on someone somewhere to be able to keep on upgrading the side if we are to, or we just start investing into the future, because now there should be some decent new gens coming through. The main player that I'm going to be looking to offload, though, is Artem Dovbyk. So hopefully we can get a pretty hefty price for him and definitely upgrade this side big time if we can do so, of course. But now that we've gone through Season 3, let's go ahead and move on to Season number 4. This time around, for the outs, we ended up making around £46 million, which definitely will help us a little bit. One of the names leaving us is Chris Richards to Everton. Ended up bringing him in as one of our first signings for around £6 million. Ended up making a £10 million profit on him as well, so definitely will take that. We also offload Enhaino to Alweda, as well as Eduardo Bova to Brentford. And on the ends, we were focusing on building for the future because there really wasn't anyone out there that I'm like, wow, this player really improves us right now. So was trying to focus on the future. And speaking of focusing on the future, for those of you who would wish to take over this save, once it's all done and dusted, you can actually do so. I'll be linking my Discord down below in the description. That is where you can download the save file from, then the download section of the Discord. Now, our first signing focusing on the future was Iram Suarez. Brought him in from Tenerife for £10 million, loaned him out to Fiorentina, though, to help with development. A lot of these players have been loaned out to help with their development because we have one heck of a squad at our disposal right now. Second signing was Mr. Vicente Grillo, an Argentinian left back from Boca Juniors for around $7.25 million. Definitely think he'll become one heck of a player. He's currently out on loan at St. Pauli. Then you just know we have to get a Colombian wonder kid, Mr. Brian Reynoso, for $2.7 million from Envigado, who we have actually loaned him back to, and he's got some pretty good versatility up front. Then found a very cheap wonder kid at Sevilla from India, Mr. Changti Naik, for $725K, and hopefully this is a player that we can develop into one heck of a squad player for us. Speaking of squad players, we've got another one. For aerial purposes, Mr. Romain Navarro for 1.4 million from Alger. At just the age of 17, 6'6", and he has 15 heading and 16 jumping reach. Could not pass that up. We then bring in winger Taha Khan from Hertha Berlin for 10.75 million, and we loan him back to Hertha Berlin for development. We then went and picked up Croatian wonder kid Igor Dilber from Dinamo Zagreb for £5 million. He's currently on loan at Serie B side. Triestina, I believe is how you pronounce it. And taking a little bit of a deeper look really quickly for those of you that end up taking over this rebuild, you have one heck of a playmaker here on your hands with Igor Dilber. 16 first touch, 16 passing, 16 technique at just 17 years of age. Moving on, we've got Alessandro Bussiero for 10.75 million, bringing him in from Empoli. He is currently loaned out to Sporting Gijon, and he is going to be able to play on the wing as well as up top as a 9 or even as a 10. Then we got a fun project wonder kid in Frank Byrne from Leicester City for £1.2 million, an Australian with an awesome mustache that we have loaned out to Albino Leffe. And then we've got another project wonder kid, a goalkeeper this time, and Antonio Ternowski, who we brought in from Flamengo for around £2 million. And we have loaned him out to Guarani FC in Brazil. And then an improvement to the first team actually is Ferland Mendy for around 150k. Ferland Mendy for 150k. There's no way that I'm passing that up. He's going to be a great option for us who can hopefully help us repeat not only as league champions, but Champions League champions as well. And that leads us here to the squad, which only sees the improvement being made of Ferland Mendy as a squad option, which I think with this squad, we just need to let them develop, and they're doing very well at doing so already. They've won the league, they've won 3 Coppa Italias, and they have won a Champions League already. So hopefully they can push on and do it all again. Speaking of doing it all again, we're in the Champions League again due to winning the league and winning the Champions League. We have won the Super Cup this time around, which is awesome to see. Our Champions League schedule is actually looking a little bit easier than it was last year. We got Gent in Belgium, we got Leipzig, Benfica, Lazio, so the Rome derby here in the Champions League, that's going to be pretty fun. We've got Arsenal, Ajax, Besiktas, as well as AS Monaco. And when looking at the face of things, I mean, through 3 games, we're on 7 points right now. I don't think there is any reason as to why we can't repeat as not only Serie A champions, but also Champions League champions and Coppa Italia champions. Hopefully we can win the Super Cup as well. But now with all that being said, let's go ahead and simulate through Season 4. Alright, Season 4 done and dusted. We were wanting to repeat as champions not only in Italy, but as well as the Champions League and retain the Coppa Italia. Have we done that? We have done some of them. We ended up winning the Champions League again, this time over Manchester City by a score of 3-2. Won the Super Cup, as we know. Won the Coppa Italia, so we're 4 for 4 there. And we ended up winning the EA Sports FC Super Cup again. Serie A, though, we ended up losing out by 5 points. There's a reason as to why we ended up losing out by 5 points, which I had to kind of make some emergency signings in January. But don't worry, they weren't permanent ones, they were just loans. The reason why I had to go make those loans is because this man, Simone Profundi, has been injured since January 2nd. So we did not have him for the Coppa Italia final, we did not have him for the Super Cup final, we did not have him for the Champions League final. We haven't had him for a long while. So I made 3 loan signings to hopefully help with his absence and if there are any other major injuries that ended up happening. Those loan signings were João Neves to help with defensive midfield options. Another was Wilson Odobert, who we got on loan from Tottenham, which he actually did really well. And then for options at the 10 spot, we ended up getting in on loan Noah Darvic from Newcastle, who also did really well. He didn't look anything like this attribute-wise when he got here, and he just absolutely exploded under us. But I definitely think if we were to have had Simone Profundi healthy, we probably could have ended up winning the Serie A. But also, at the same time, would we have been able to do a quadruple if we didn't bring in those loan signings? Don't really know, because they helped make life a whole heck of a lot easier. Numbers-wise, Matthias Schüller ended up leading the way in goals with 30 of them, Vitor Roque with 23, Artem Dovbyk with 21, Odober, like I said, he only had to play 28 games for us, but in those 28 games, he had 14 goals and 6 assists. Rooney Bargi with 14 goals. Noah Darvic with 10 assist-wise. Ruggieri, once again, leading the way. 18 assists right there. Shula, 18 assists. Roque, even though he had 23 goals, 16 assists. Absolutely love seeing that from a striker. Bowie, once again, up there. 13 assists. Loving that partnership there with those wingbacks or fullbacks, whichever you prefer to call them. Rooney Bargi with 12 assists. And you'll notice I didn't mention Joao Neves' name. That is because he is actually kind of lower down here. He only ended up playing 8 times, but in those 8 games, he had 6 goal contributions, 3 goals, and 3 assists. Average rating-wise, highest average rating was Matthias Shula with a 7.32. You see Joao Neves and Odober up there, but you also see Ruggieri and Bowie there as well. Highlight of the season for us is, of course, going to be that Champions League win over Manchester City, which saw them go up early. But, I mean, we just kept on fighting and fighting and fighting. That is really what this team has become. Just keep on fighting and winning as many trophies as we possibly can. No matter if it's injuries that we're dealing with, suspensions, whatever it may be, we are going to find some way to get the better of you. Even though teams like Real Madrid last season made it quite difficult on us, and Man City did as well, because it would take us almost into extra time before we would get a goal, where Weston McKennie once again plays the ball into Ederson. Shula finds Darvic, Kessie, goal, Champions League winners. Going into Season 5, as this will be our final season, being that we have won the Champions League, there's no need for us to progress any further. We will have £42.9 million in the transfer budget. I do think now I am going to essentially force myself, though, to sell Mr. Dovbyk. So we will probably have more in the transfer budget to bring in potentially one last heavy hitter for us here. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and move in to our final season. Season number 5. All right, so on the outs this time, we ended up making £93 million. We ended up selling Ferland Mendy to Ali. Didn't really want to part ways with him, but I mean, he can go get one last payday, I guess. We did end up selling Artem Dovbyk to Al Hilal, which he was sold for around £56 million. I believe it can rise to 62. And then the one player that I really didn't want to lose, but he ended up really wanting to go, was our captain, Gianluca Mancini, for around £28 million, can rise to 32 to Al Ali. So him and Mr. Mendy are going to be teammates. But add that £93 million to what we already had going into the season, and we were able to bring in one heavy hitter, which I'll get to in a moment. Because first, got to get to the other signings. We brought in Ez Abde on a free, pretty good winger option that could play on either side for us. Brought in a South Korean wonder kid at center back for around £15 million from Stade Rennais, Choi Jung-woo. He is currently out on loan, though, at Girona for development. Brought in another Argentinian wingback slash fullback in Federico Pacheco, this time from Huracan for around $7.5 million. This time he can play on the right side. He is probably going to be playing games for us, though, this season. I did not decide to loan him out. I think that with how his attributes are, he can probably end up getting a good amount of game time. He can also play on that left-hand side. Is great with both feet. Ended up bringing in 2 loan signings to help with depth and just in case any injuries happen. One is Curtis Jones from Arsenal. Can't believe he ended up going there. And then this one's a bit of a funny one because I forgot the rules in Italy for a moment. Ended up bringing in Marcus Leonardo on a loan from Bayern Munich. And then I realized, wait, I can't register him. And that's because he's an extra non-EU player. Because you can only have 2 non-EU players per season that you bring in. So essentially, we're going to be paying Marcus Leonardo $160K a week to be on vacation in Rome for a season unless Bayern Munich feel the need to recall him. So, whoops. But then we've got our heavy hitter that I paid $86 million up front for, Pau Cubarsí from FC Barcelona. We have 2 of the best young center backs in the world of football in this side. Very, very happy with the defense that we have built. Defense wins championships. We've already seen it. We've already won 2 Champions Leagues. We've won 4 Coppa Italias as well as a Serie A title already. So hopefully, with him coming in, it can ensure that we win the Serie A again. And hopefully, maybe, go for a 3-peat in the Champions League. Because that'd be insane. This right here is how the squad is looking for our 5th and final season. Looking very strong, very good. Still pretty young, honestly. This defensive midfield duo has been a rock for us. And our fullback wingback duo has been phenomenal for us as well. I think having Scalvini with Kubarsi is going to be fantastic. And Mr. Guilherme Restes is honestly becoming one of the best goalkeepers in the world. So I am happy that we have potentially one of the best goalkeepers in the world here at AS Roma. This side's very good, very, very fun. Looking at the competitions, of course, we're going to be in the Champions League again due to winning the Champions League, but also finishing in second in the league. We're off to a good start in the league already as well. 3 games, 3 wins, 9 points. We won the Super Cup again as well. Champions League schedule-wise, looking okay. We got to play Arsenal and Dortmund, so not going to be that easy. We got Strasbourg, Real Sociedad, Barcelona, Benfica again, Ludogorets Razgrad, and RSC Anderlecht. So I definitely think that we can go through, and if we go through comfortably, then hopefully we can dominate the Champions League once again. But with that being said, let's go ahead, simulate Season 5, see how we do. Alright, simulating for Season 5 is done. We wanted to win the league again and potentially repeat in a multitude of other areas as well. Were we able to do so? Yes, we were. We did the quintuple. We won absolutely everything. We won the Serie A on 102 points, so we absolutely dominated the league after losing out barely last season. I think the team kind of took that a little bit personally. We won the Champions League on pens over Real Madrid, so we've beaten Real Madrid twice in Champions League finals. We won the Super Cup again, as we know. Went 5 for 5 in the Coppa Italia, which is unbelievable. Very happy we did that. And then EA Sports FC Super Cup, we ended up winning that as well. In our journey to the Champions League final this time around, we did really well in the league phase. We knocked out Newcastle United along the way in the round of 16, knocked out Liverpool, which that is actually impressive because we went to Anfield and didn't lose. And then PSG, we ended up knocking them out where we went to PSG and lost. But thankfully, got to the final and beat Real Madrid on pens. When we look at player performances, there is no wonder as to why we did so well. You got a multitude of players, double-digit goals, 3 over 20. Pafundi, Roque, and Bargi, all over 20. Frank Kessie even scored 19 goals this season, which he is our pen taker. There's no way that he scored every single one off of pens. Got Shula once again, 17-17 assist-wise, though. We got Matteo Ruggeri, 24 assists. Him and Sasha Bowie. Sasha Bowie around that 12, 13, 14 assist area. Super consistent. Ruggeri, very consistent. Average rating, I can clearly tell he had the highest, 7.42. Ruggeri and Bowie were unbelievable for us. And one thing really quickly before we move on to one last thing before the awards and kind of closing everything out. And one thing that I wanted to show you guys really quickly was for those of you that wish to take over this rebuild for yourselves, you're going to have quite a bit of talent here. This is essentially from, I'd say, here to here. That is 4.5 star to 5-star potential players that either have hit that potential already, which looks like there's only 2 of them that are getting near that, or players that still have yet to hit it. You have probably the best club in the world of football at your fingertips if you choose to take over this AS Roma side. But now, with the rebuild finished, who is our rebuild player of the save? I was kind of contemplating between 2 different players. One was here from the very beginning, one was a signing. But due to what the one signing did in just 3 seasons, kind of blew me away. So the Rebuild Player of the Save award will be going to Matteo Ruggeri, our Italian fullback that we brought in from Atalanta for £78 million in 164 games in 3 seasons, by the way, essentially playing every single game possible. He had 17 goals, 62 assists, 22 player of the match performances with an average rating of a 7.33. That's unbelievable from a wingback, fullback, whatever you want to class him as. He was unbelievable for us, contributing to 3 Champions League wins, 3 Coppa Italia wins, 2 Serie A titles, and if you want to include them, 4 Super Cup wins as well. So he was unbelievable for us. And well, folks, there we have it for today's rebuild. I hope you guys did enjoy. If you did and wish to give this rebuild save file a go for yourselves, there'll be a link in my Discord down below in the description. That's where you can download it from the download section of the Discord. And if you have enjoyed today's video, please feel free. Leave a like, comment, and subscribe. Subscribing is 100% free, so on that sub button. Right now, I'll be popping up on screen some of my more recent videos if you wish to check them out. Definitely feel free to do so. And until next time, everyone, have a good one. Bye-bye.